Good morning. Hope you're having a great week. It is, we just finished a holiday weekend, Labor Day. It is Tuesday, September 2nd. No, not 12:09. It's 10:09 a.m. Pacific Daylight Time, local time here in Aurora, Oregon, not Colorado, Oregon. I'm just south of Portland off I-5 at a TA Petro. And we're going to talk about what's going on with me. This is not going to be just a pure load board video. We'll look at the load board, but it's not going to be a pure load board video. I am going to, if I can remember, try to look at flatbed loads. There's, I don't know if it's one person or if it's multiple people. I haven't really been keeping track of the username, but there's either been one person that's been spamming my videos requesting flatbed loads on load board videos, or there's multiple people asking for it. I don't know which it is. but people or a person wants to see some flatbed videos. And I had another request, somebody wanting me to look at very, very specific stuff like team loads going from somewhere in Canada to Los Angeles or something like that. I can't remember that request. I would have to go dig through the comments to try to find it again. Maybe if I do another in a future load board video, I'll go try to find that comment and look at it. I try to, when people request stuff, I try to appease them, but we'll try to remember to do flatbeds. So let me flip over to the load board while I explain what's going on with me. This is just my load alerts. This is the load alert that I have set up. And it has several of these big multi-stop loads. All these state and Oregon loads, they're the same agent. They're all these big, like 38 stop loads. They look really good, but these are actually like really cheap loads that are paying like $2 a mile on the line haul, which I only get about 70% of the line haul, or 70% of the overall load. I get 65% of the line haul. So a load that's paying $2 a mile, I make $1.40 a mile approximately. So all the prices you see here, these are full rates. These are what the customer is paying, and I get about 70% of what you see here. This full rate includes everything. It's fuel surcharge, it's stop pay, it's everything. So a load that's paying, this one's paying $4 a mile. I make about $2.80 a mile gross to the truck on a load that's paying $4 a mile. So yeah, I am considering. I can't go to California. We're going to talk about that. That's what we're going to talk about. Is California? You know what? Let me pause this and let's pull up a new. Let me pause this while I pull up a new load board page. All right, we've got a new load board page pulled up, and somebody requested flatbed loads. So I'm just going to choose flatbed. There's a ton of different types of flatbeds. You know, there's low boys, there's step decks. But once you start getting into low boys and step decks and all that stuff, you're getting into oversize, overweight. So I am just going to choose all of the flatbeds, which you can see there's a huge list of the various types of flatbeds. But we're just going to choose flatbeds and 4,700 total loads. Now let's do minimum revenue. Let's do $2.50 a mile. A minimum of $2.50 a mile. Oh, all right, that brings us down to 3,111 loads. Let's do minimum revenue of $2,000. That takes us down to 874 loads. And this thing, by default, sorts by the agency alphabetically, which is... I've emailed Landstar and told them that's dumb. It should sort by revenue descending, like every other load board. So we have to manually go in here and get it to sort by revenue descending every time I refresh the page or do a search or anything like that. Anytime I change the search options or perform any type of search. So, oh my goodness, just we're full of Alaska loads. Houston, Texas, Salt Lake City, Winnemucca, Nevada, all going to Alaska. And yeah, don't go to Alaska. This stuff looks appealing. It looks enticing, but you might have to deadhead all the way back. You know, you might have to deadhead 3,000 miles back to the contiguous United States. So while I am explaining what's going on with me, I will scroll through these flatbeds because I've had I don't know if it's one person that's been commenting on several videos requesting flatbed loads or if it's multiple people that have been commenting across multiple videos requesting flatbed loads. I don't know which it is. I haven't been paying attention to the usernames. Um, but I will scroll through these flatbed loads while I am explaining what has been going on with me. I'm not going to pay attention to the loads. I'm just going to scroll through them. You can look at them. So, what's been going on with me? Well, we just finished a holiday weekend, and Monday morning, no, yeah, it was Monday morning at 3 a.m., I got a notification that I was put out of service. Again. And I assume it's related to CARB compliance. So I'm not going to go back and tell everything that's going on with the whole CARB situation and explain the CARB permit and all that stuff. It's a new form of taxation by California. California is desperate for money, and they're just coming out with new forms of taxation, and they have a cult, you know, over there in California that anytime you say that something's good for the environment, they're just like, yeah, let's do it. You know, like anything that they attach to environmentalism, the cult of the left just supports blindly. And the CARB compliance, all it is just a new form of taxation. And how much of this do I want to explain? It's there's a lot of things involved with it. It's a lot of taxation. So there is a CARB permit fee that you have to pay. Then you also have to pay to have a CARB test done. The CARB tester has to pay to be CARB certified. The CARB tester also has to pay for specialized equipment to perform the test. So there's just like layers and layers of payment involved in this, layers and layers of taxation. So anyway, um, I had the CARB permit and I was supposed to renew it. You know what? I said I wasn't going to tell the whole story. So let's just, if you want to hear previous versions of it, go back watch old videos. But the short version, what's the short version? My CARB permit, well, I don't know if you say it expired. I was due for a test to remain compliant with CARB on my vehicle by July 31st. I did not get that done on July 31st, so Landstar put me out of service. And I called Landstar and I'm like, well, um, I'm planning on just like not getting the permit. Why did you put me out of service? I'm starting to tell the whole story. Um, it's a permit for one state, and Landstar put me out of service for everything because of it. And I made the argument with Landstar, you know, of how absurd that was to put me out of service for a permit for one state. That's like me not having a liquor permit for New York. Why in the hell would you put my truck out of service for that? And they're like, I don't know, it's just policy. You know, you're dealing with people that don't know what in the hell. They're just data entry people. Um, they told me that I had to deactivate the truck or get compliant. I had to get the test done. So they said that they would put me back in service for 2 weeks to give me time to get that done. So I went ahead and tried to get compliant, but I failed the test because I have some active faults, which are just like warnings. They're not up to a level yet where it's become. I'm not getting any kind of error on my dash. If I go into the diagnostics, I can scroll down and look at all the active faults for everything. But I don't know how Volvo decides whether or not to display an active fault to me. But in order to see these faults, you have to plug in like a JPro to them. You have to plug a computer into them. These faults don't show, but I have some NOx sensor faults. NOx sensor, which I think it stands for nitrogen oxygen sensors. And I failed the CARB test. I'm like, well, I'm not going to put my truck in the shop and spend untold thousands of dollars trying to get these NOx errors fixed just so I can drive in California when the rates suck in California. So I'm just going to deactivate the truck. So that's what I did. Tuesday of last week, once I made it through California to Oregon, I deactivated the truck. It's a form that I had to submit to California. It took them like 2 days to deactivate the truck. Then I sent a screenshot of the page to Landstar, which they requested. They said, just send us a screenshot of the page after you deactivate the truck. So I sent it to them. Then I got an email Monday morning at 3 a.m. saying that my truck was put out of service. It's an automated email. Landstar's closed. There's nobody working. So I had to wait until this morning to contact Landstar, and I'm like, what's going on? I sent that in. You guys still put me out of service again. And they said, well, let me look at your email. And they looked at my email and they said, well, it still shows active here. And I'm like, yeah, that's for my account. The entity list that shows all your trucks is empty. When I deactivated the truck, they deleted the truck from my entity list. And they're like, well, we still need it to be deactive or inactive or whatever. You still need to deactivate the account. I'm like, what? That doesn't make any sense. I said, you understand that's the account. That's not the truck. Like, imagine that, like, I'm not an owner-operator. Imagine that I have, like, a fleet of 20 trucks, and you guys want me to deactivate a truck. And I deactivate it, and it deletes it from the entity list. And you guys still want me to deactivate my account. If I deactivate the whole account, it's going to deactivate all of the other 19 trucks. Like, that doesn't make any sense. The account is just my ability to log into the CARB site. It has nothing to do with the truck. And she was confused, so she said, let me put you on hold and ask somebody. And then she came back a couple minutes later and she said, yeah, they told me that you need to deactivate the account. The whole thing needs to be listed as inactive. I'm like, all right, let me call CARB. So I called CARB, and CARB basically laughed at me. And they're like, there's no way to deactivate the account. You don't have an option to deactivate the account. Like, the only way to deactivate the account being, CARB told me, the account being listed as active just means that you have an account. It's not something you turn on and off. Like, CARB was frustrated with me, and I was frustrated with Landstar. So I called Landstar back and went round and round in circles with them, and they told me that it needs to be deactivated. And I'm like, CARB already told me you can't. And I went through there and I looked at every option I had. My address was listed as active, and I was like, and they wanted that listed as, like, Landstar is being so ridiculous. So the deactivate button on the address was grayed out. I could not deactivate the address. There was no way to deactivate the account. The only thing that I could deactivate was the user account. I was like, man, that's probably just going to take away my access to the site. But I'll give it a try. And I clicked deactivate, and the page refreshed, and it said access denied. And I was like, what? I refreshed the page, access denied. I tried to log back into the page, access denied. So it basically just removed my access to the site. my account is still active, but my user account no longer has access to my account. Awesome. So I called CARB again and explained to them what I did, and they said that they can't, give my user access again. That I have to send an email to this group, and maybe they'll get back to me in 3 days about giving my user account access again. And so I sent that email off to them, and I talked with CARB again about what Landstar was requesting, and again, CARB told me that that's ridiculous. That's not the way shit works. So I called Landstar back again, and I, got a new person with Landstar, and I don't know if there is like a big difference between men and women, but up to this point, the two people I talked with at Landstar were women, and the third person I talked with at Landstar was a guy. And I explained to the guy the exact same thing that I explained to the last two people I talked with at Landstar, and the guy was like, yeah, that makes sense. And he was like, he just like cleared it, and he was like, you're good to go. You're good to go. He looked at the email with the screenshots that I had already sent them, and he was like, you're good to go. Everything's all right. And I'm like, so you're not just extending me for another 2 weeks. I'm good to go. Like, I'm not gonna be put out of service in 2 more weeks. He said, no, we're done. You're good to go. You're not gonna be put back out of service in 2 weeks. This issue is resolved. And I'm like, all right, cool. I appreciate it. So now I'm good to go with Landstar finally. But I no longer have access to my CARB account while I was trying to do what Landstar was telling me I had to do. So now I'm going to have to deal with CARB and getting my user account attached back to my entity account. Who knows how long I'm going to be dealing with that mess. But I want to get that resolved in case I ever want to go back to California again, because there is an application process to get those accounts created. And I don't want to have to go through that whole process again. So yeah, that's what I was dealing with for over 5 hours this morning, from 6 a.m. until like 11:30 this morning. Well, I'm thinking about Central Time Zone, so I'm not going to try to convert that over to Pacific Time, the time that I'm on right now. We'll just say 5 hours. It was over 5 hours that I was dealing with that this morning, calling CARB, calling Landstar, waiting on hold for everybody, sending emails, taking screenshots of stuff, and like just trying to appease everybody. I'm not going to pause it. I'm going to let you look at this page for a second while I lean over and grab a soda. Orange or grape? Let's go with orange. Yay, a Shasta orange. Make sure the lip is clean. So now I'm back in service, and I can book a load now. Yay! It's awesome. And once we finish scrolling through the flatbeds, then we'll look through the loads. And this is basically every flatbed load on Landstar's load board. And what were the only filters I put on there? What was it, like a minimum of $2 a mile? And a minimum of, was it $2,000? Now, those are the full rates. So that $2 a mile, that's really like $1.40 a mile. So gross to the truck. You get about 70% of whatever you're seeing on here. So $2 a mile is approximately $1.40 a mile. You don't want to be running loads at $2 a mile. And when I'm talking about rates and load prices, I'm typically talking about the full rate because that's the way it's listed everywhere. The full rate is on the load board. The full rate is on my freight bills. Like every pricing that I see everywhere is the full rate. I have to bust out a calculator to figure out what I'm making on a load. Are we getting near the end of these 800 and what was it, 846 loads? We're getting closer to the 2,000 threshold. And I also did not sort this. What I should have done is I should have limited it to only showing direct customer freight contract loads because the majority of this is going to be reposted spot market crap. We have entire agencies at Landstar that pretty much the only thing they do is repost crap from the spot market onto Landstar's load board. The good agencies have their own customers and they don't really deal with spot market freight. They don't put very much spot market freight onto the load board. But our bad agents at Landstar, that's like all they do. What I was told whenever I went through one of the training classes at Landstar, because at every training class that I take at Landstar, we end up just, chatting with the trainers. But what they were telling us in regard to the agents was that in order to become an agent with Landstar, you have to have direct customers. You can't just like apply to be an agent with Landstar and just get on there and not have ever been a broker before. You have to have your own customer. I don't I don't know if there's a minimum of like how many customers you have to have. I don't know the exact details, the exact requirements, but I was told that to become an agent with Landstar, you have to have your own direct customers. You have to bring something to Landstar. But I think there are agents that got on with Landstar that didn't really have direct customers, or they lost their direct customers after they got on with Landstar, and now they just make a living of reposting crap from the spot market because there are a lot of agencies at Landstar that just post tons of crap from the spot market. Oh, and something else before I forget it. Like, people comment stuff asking me to do things all the time, and I don't make a list of that stuff. I just try to remember. So, what I'm doing right now with the flatbed, that's something somebody requested. Something else someone requested. And this is a kind of a dark topic. It involves death. Um, a few videos back, while I was driving through Nevada, I got stuck on Highway 95 for a couple of hours. There was a really bad accident, and it was a fatality accident. And there was very little information released to the public about that accident. Well, someone that watched my video said that they believe that they know someone involved in the accident, and they were trying to find out more information about the accident. Um, I suspect that there are some wrongful death lawsuits that are going to be taking place. Um, so basically, people are requesting information. If anybody has any information about what took place, if anybody like saw one of the people involved in the accident driving, recklessly before the accident, or maybe driving perfectly normal before the accident, any information that you have, if you know anything about the people involved in the accident, about what happened during the accident or before the accident or after the accident, whatever, If you have any information, then there are people that know or are related to the people involved in the accident that are requesting any information that they can possibly get about the accident. So you can go back to that video where I was stuck in the accident, stuck in traffic there, and you can reply to them and provide whatever information you want, or you two can work out how to contact each other, whatever. I don't want to become a middleman in this, so you can just go back to the comment section of that video and you can find their comments where they're requesting information, and you can reply to them there if you have any additional information. They also requested that if you have any additional information, you can reach out to like Nevada Highway Patrol or whatever police agency is involved with investigating the accident. Reach out to them with any information that you have. So yeah, that I was requested to, ask for that information. So somebody requested that, and who knows what their reasons are for requesting that information. They could be requesting that information just because they want to know what happened, or it could be because of they're trying to find out who's at fault for a potential lawsuit. So if you want to get involved in that, if you have any additional information, then you can reply to them in the comment section of the video, and then you guys can work out how to contact each other outside of YouTube if you want. There was somebody that requested something very specific. They were requesting like loads from some specific place in Canada to some specific place in the United States, like Ontario, Canada to Los Angeles, California, or something like that. Team loads, I think. Like very, very specific. I can't remember that exact request, but I'm not going to try to do that in this video. I might try to do that in a later video. I'll have to go back and find that comment. Oh, Tyndall Air Force Base in Florida to Tinker Air Force Base in Oklahoma City. Paying next to nothing. And it's not listed as a government load, it's listed as consumer goods or appliances. That's making me think it's some spot market load. Some agent. Like agents that deal with government, they almost always list the commodity type as government. So I'm guessing this is some spot market load of somebody that doesn't deal with government loads very often. Let's look at the details and see. I'm just curious. Direct shipper? No. It's some spot market crap. So that load is on the spot market somewhere. May not be on dat load board. There's tons and tons of spot market load boards, but it's on the spot market. And on these spot market loads, they're just the reason I usually don't even show spot market loads is because they're make-believe Fantasyland stuff. A lot of these agents will post spot market loads at just completely fictitious prices. They'll just make it up just to generate a sales lead, just to generate, it's all marketing. It's sales and marketing. And they're just trying to generate a lead. They're trying to get you to call them. And then once you call them and you're interested in the load, they'll say, awesome, let me check and see if it's still available. And then they'll call the broker and they'll say, hey, I've got a driver that's interested in that load. Can we get it at this price? And they'll say no. And then they'll negotiate and figure out what price they'll agree on. And then they'll come back to you and they'll say, great news, it's still available. But instead of $4 a mile, they want to do $2 a mile. What's your truck number? That's the kind of stupid crap you have to deal with on these spot market loads. Now, sometimes the rates that they put on here are actually pre-negotiated rates, but it can still change. Even if it's a pre-negotiated rate, whenever you say that you'll take the load at that price, they call them, they say, okay, I've got somebody at that, $2.50 a mile that we agreed to earlier. And they'll say, actually, I've got another truck that's, willing to move it at $2.25 a mile. Would you be willing to move it at $2.15 a mile? And they'll be like, all right, let me ask the driver. And they'll come back and say, well, it's still available, but there's somebody else that's willing to take it at $2.25 a mile. They want to know if you'll take it at $2.15 a mile. That's the kind of crap you deal with on these spot market loads. And these spot market loads cancel like crazy if you book them too early. Now, if you book them like same day where they pick up in a couple of hours, they don't cancel on you that often. But the further away from the pickup time you book it, the more likely it is to cancel. Because if somebody calls them and offers to move it at a cheaper rate, then that's more money in the broker's pocket. So they'll just cancel the load off you and have somebody else move it at a lower rate. So there's just tremendous, and then there's a lot of payment issues on spot market loads. Now, I haven't dealt with a lot of completely non-payment issues on spot market loads. What I've dealt with on spot market loads is spot market loads will refuse to pay accessorial pay. They'll refuse to pay detention, layover, loading and unloading pay, stuff like that, extra stop pay, things like that. They'll refuse to pay anything that's not in the initial agreement. Like you agree to pay $4,000 to move this load, and then later on in the load, you find out that the customer wants you to drop it off at two different locations, so you need extra stop pay, or you find out they want you to assist unloading, or you have detention or layover. All of that extra stuff, I've always had issues getting paid for that stuff on spot market loads, and I rarely have issues getting paid for that stuff. Actually, you know what? I still have issues getting paid for that stuff on contract freight. Anything that's not in the initial freight bill agreement, it's hard to get anybody to pay. Like Amazon. Well, Amazon had a semi-legitimate reason. Looking at it from Amazon's perspective, I can understand them refusing to pay detention pay, kind of, because the last accessorial pay that I was refused to pay was I was at home, Landstar stole my trailer from me, so I was looking for another trailer, and Landstar trailer utilization was being just confrontational with me and just trying to screw me over. So I ended up finding an SOS load where basically a driver broke down, and they were hauling an Amazon load. So I went over, drove to Fort Smith, Arkansas, picked up an Amazon load, delivered it to Amarillo, Texas. And when I delivered it to Amarillo, Texas, they had me sitting around for, I think they took like 6 hours to unload or something. Might have been 4 hours. It was like 2 to 4 hours of total unload time. Or no, not total. Detention pay. The detention pay was either 2 or 4 hours. I can't remember exactly how much. And Landstar was like, okay, we'll submit for it. And they came back and told me that Amazon refused to pay for it. And that was it. There was no further discussion. Now, the supervisor at the Amazon warehouse signed off on the detention pay. He signed off on my check-in and check-out time. I think the reason Amazon refused to pay was because the load was a week late because of the breakdown, which had nothing to do with me. And so I can kind of see why Amazon wouldn't want to pay detention pay for a load that's a week late, that they took 2 extra hours or 4 extra hours to unload. from their perspective, I can understand that. But also, just because somebody screws up on one thing doesn't entitle the other partner to just throw away everything on the agreement. It just really screwed me over. I did everything I was supposed to do, and Amazon took too long to unload me and then refused to pay me for it. It would be like, imagine, I'm partnered with Landstar. Imagine if I did one thing wrong with Landstar. Like, I broke the contract with one thing, and then Landstar decided to, like, not hold, not with, meet their contractual obligations for all kinds of stuff because of that. Like, there wasn't like a one-to-one, you did this, so I'm not going to do that. They just decided, to just screw me over on all kinds of stuff. And anytime I said anything about it, and they're like, well, you didn't show up on time once. So we have carte blanche to just do whatever the hell we want from now because you didn't meet your contractual obligation that one time. Now we don't have to meet contractual obligations on anything ever. That's basically, that's the other side of it. Like, I can understand from Amazon's perspective why they wouldn't want to pay extra for a load that came in a week late. But from the other side, like, that, just because, we did one thing wrong doesn't mean that you get to pick and choose what part of the contract that you follow. The repercussions for being late, that should have been figured out separately. If they wanted to pay $500 less for the load because it was a week late, then, figure that shit out. You don't just refuse to pay other contractual obligations because of some other something. But yeah, I never got paid for detention pay on that spot market load that I did for the potato chip load that I did from Minnesota to Colorado. It was supposed to be $40 an hour of detention pay, and they took like 8 hours to unload. I forget what the total time was, but I had like $200 something of detention pay, and I never got that. Like, I almost never get paid detention pay. My goodness, this took forever to go through all these flatbed loads. I'm trying not to go through too fast. That way, if you want to, I'm trying to go through it at a speed where you can pause it and look at the loads if you're interested in them. But yeah, I need to disable spot market loads because it's just make-believe Fantasyland crap. It's just a huge waste of time to scroll through spot market loads. Oh, we are finally at the bottom of the list. Okay, we're finally done. Let me pause this while I bring up the page in case it logged me out again. Alright, I think we're still good. So, alright, one of the Colorado loads disappeared. There was a $9,300 one, and then there was one for like $7,000. There were two of these big multi-stop Colorado loads, and one of them is gone. Just a second here. I'm not sure what that was. I heard like a... I don't know how to describe it. It's like metal hitting metal sound. It wasn't really loud. Alright, so I've already looked at this load going to Colorado. And I don't know. I don't really want to do this. There's driving around on country bumpkin roads, and then there's driving around in the mountains on country bumpkin roads. And this is driving around in the mountains on country bumpkin roads. So let's look at this. Now, you see all these plot points here on the map? Those are not all of the stops. Stops that are already along the road, the expected route, are not on here. So in order for me to actually plot this out, I would have to put in all of the stops to figure out the expected route that they want you to take. Like there's a spot like Elko, Nevada, and then Grand Junction, Colorado. Well, that Grand Junction, Colorado is not on here. Where is Grand Junction? Grand Junction should be over off I-70 here somewhere. There it is, right here. So they're expecting that I'm going to drop all the way down to I-70 and then go to Grand Junction before I go to Craig. So I can't like drop down on highways down here to Craig because I have to go to Grand Junction first. But that's just the expected route that they plan for me to take is I-70, so they didn't bother putting Grand Junction as a plot point here. There's a fly in here that's driving me crazy. So yeah, this is driving around a lot in the country in the Rocky Mountains. So I am thinking about booking this load, but here's the deal. I cannot drive through California, and this is basically set up to where the expectation appears to be that I would drive south. I would basically go back the same route that I just took. I would drive south on I-5 to Redding, California, and then cut across from Redding to Reno, and then I-80 to Elko, Nevada. Now, I could go alternate routes. I could drive all the way over here to Twin Falls and then take this Highway 93 down to Wells and then backtrack to Elko. That would probably be the best route to take. But I would have to figure out the entire route for this to figure out what my actual mileage would be versus the mileage that they have on here. Because if you're just doing from one point to another, the way that they do the mileage is zip code to zip code. They don't do it actual mileage, you know, address to address. They do it zip code to zip code, household mover good miles, or whatever it is, HHG, household goods miles. So whenever you have like 39 different destinations and each one of them is off by like 5 miles, that can add up to be a lot of extra miles that you're driving. And then if you're not going the exact route that they're wanting you to go because you're trying to avoid a dirt road or something like that, then that can add in even more miles. So I would have to plot out the entire route to get a good idea of what this actually is. It would take me a long time to plot all this out. Actually, you know what? It wouldn't actually take me that long because most of the stops are in the Colorado Springs and Denver area. I don't really need to plot that stuff out. I would just need to plot out all of this stuff driving around in the mountains here. So yeah, there's a lot of negatives with this load. What I'm really hoping for is for a load that's better. Just like this is a lot of driving around in the mountains on back roads, and then you're left in Denver, which is not a good place to be looking for a load. Every time I've delivered a load into Colorado, I've had to deadhead to Dallas for my next load, or I just deadheaded home to Oklahoma City. So you're looking at a 700 plus mile deadhead after the load's delivered. See, I'm not too terribly thrilled about this. There was another load that I actually did try to book um, after my load canceled on me on Saturday. But this agent didn't answer the phone over the weekend. I left a voicemail. They didn't call me back. And the load disappeared Sunday. Was it Sunday or Monday? It was either Sunday or Monday. There was a load going to Williston, North Dakota. Well, it was a final delivery in Williston, North Dakota. It had some drops in Montana. No, it didn't have any in Montana. It was South Dakota. You had a few drops in South Dakota. And then it was 18 extra stops. So a total of 19 deliveries across South Dakota and North Dakota. And it was paying, I don't know, around $9,000 full rate. I get about 70% of that. But I was trying to call and book that load, and it finaled in Williston, North Dakota. And the agent wouldn't answer the phone, wouldn't return my call, and it was gone at some point Sunday or Monday. So I'm not sure if he actually picked up the phone or she actually picked up the phone for somebody calling on it or what. I don't know what happened with it. let's edit this and let's extend it out to 300 miles. That did nothing. The available loads up here, it changes. So 300 miles is still 3 loads. 400 miles is nothing. 500 miles, there's 6 loads. Nevada, and Rohnert Park, California. Yeah, I can't do any of these. They all involve driving through California. Let's just double check where McCarran, Nevada is at. I'm pretty sure it's the Reno area. Yeah, McCarran, Nevada is Reno. I'm hearing some more banging outside. So yeah, Reno, Nevada would require me to drive through California. Otherwise, it would be a massive, massive amount of mileage for me to drive all the way around, go through like Idaho or something. Looks like the person next to me is dropping their trailer. So all that noise is them rolling their landing gear down and pulling their fifth wheel. I wish somebody would park next to me with a van on the other side. Now, the person that parked next to me that's dropping their trailer, yeah, it's a van. That's cool. But I wish somebody would park on that side of me with a van to block the sun. The entire time I've been parked here, I parked here Saturday morning. The entire time I've been parked here, I have not had a van on that side of me. I've had direct sunlight the entire time on that side of the truck, and it's made it really hot inside the truck in the afternoons. Over the weekend, I had a flatbed parked over there. Like, what are the chances? Like, most of the trailers out here are dry vans, and I had a flatbed on this side of me. And then like the worst possible vehicle I could have on the back side of me, I had a tanker. Not just any tanker, a tanker that had like a steel finish, like a mirror finish tank. Like, it was extremely reflective. It was like looking in a mirror. That thing was pristine. So all the sun that was going over the top of my truck and hitting that tanker was getting reflected back onto me. So it was brutally hot in my truck this weekend because I had a flatbed on that side, so I was getting all the direct sunlight on that side of the truck. And then the tanker on the other side of me was like this shiny mirror finish that was reflecting all the light back onto my truck from the other side. So I was like, man, is this like, who's doing this crap to me? It's like, there's got to be, you ever feel like sometimes like you're a toy in a kid's play box or something that's just screwing with you? It's like this is some kind of joke. It's like things can't go this wrong. All right, let's take this back down to 150 miles. I'm at 150 miles because I really do not want to drive up to the Seattle area. If I extend the area too much to, like, I don't know, Seattle's only like 200, maybe 250 miles away from here. So at 150 miles, I'm not getting any Seattle loads. And I've got everything set so low. Let me look at my, do I have Florida restricted? Yeah, I've got Florida taken out of there. Let's go ahead and add Florida in and see what it does. We'll go ahead and leave Florida in. I usually remove Colorado and Florida from my search results because there's just so many loads going to those areas that pay nothing. They really have to pay a big premium for it to be worth it to go to Colorado or Florida. And they generally don't, so I just exclude them as destinations. I've already got the rate per mile really low at $2.10 a mile. I'm just looking to see if there's anything else that I could lower to get more search results. We're looking at all hazmat loads. I don't want to see team loads because I'm not a team. And I have it set to only show direct shipper freight. Let's, just for a second. All right, that added 4 loads. Let's just see what spot market loads there are on here. So it's basically these top 4 loads. So really, really cheap loads. These are horrible. These are horrible loads. So yeah, let's go back and edit that real quick and switch it back to only showing contract freight. Otherwise, I'm going to start getting pop-up messages when new loads pop up there, because this is my load alert. I'm still debating this Westminster, Colorado. So that picks up on the 3rd, which is tomorrow. I'm pretty close to Staten, Oregon. Let me pause this while I pull up a map. All right, we got the map pulled up. Let's, we don't need to be looking at... I didn't really want to look at a terrain map either. I just wanted to look at the generic map, but I guess we'll look at a terrain map. Oh, there it is. There's an option to turn off terrain. Alright, where am I at? I'm in Aurora, which is right here. Right here is where we're at. And where is Staten? Right here is Staten. Now, I do not know where this place is at in Staten. So we'll just go with that. So we're roughly 40 miles away from Staten. Where all these multi-stop loads are being posted. And this was my expectation of the load that I would be hauling out of here, was one of these multi-stop loads, because they're the only things that pay worth a damn coming out of this area. They're not good loads. Almost all the pay is the stop pay. I'm not sure if I explained this earlier, but like these things pay like $50 for a stop and then $50 for a driver assist, which it's not an assist, it's a driver unload. Let's not rant and rave about that. I rant about it all the time, about the Landstar agents. Basically, they think a driver unload is a driver assist. They have this, I said I wasn't going to rant about it, but I'm going to finish my thought, because anyway, they have this ideology that only one person can load or unload a trailer. Anyone else that's loading or unloading a trailer is assisting the person loading or unloading the trailer. That's not how things work. But that's the ideology that they have. But anyway, these things should pay like $150 driver unload pay plus $50 stop pay. So it should be like $200 per stop instead of $100 per stop. But anyway, they pay like $100 per stop. So 38 extra stops. That's like $4,000 extra dollars on this load. And this load's paying $9,000. So take away $5,000 or $4,000 from that, and then you're down to like $5,000. So the mileage is listed as about 2,500 miles on here. So that's a $2 a mile load. That's the full rate. I only get about 70% of that. So this load pays about $1.40 a mile to the truck. If you take away all the stop and driver assist pay. So yeah, the stop and driver assist pay is the only thing that makes this load reasonable. But yeah, I was fairly certain that was the type of load I was going to take out of here, out of the Seattle Portland area. But then I saw that Google load going from Portland to Atlanta that was paying really cheap. It was paying $2.46 a mile on the full rate. I can't remember. I think it was $1.79 a mile after the percentage cuts. But it was a big mileage run. So it turned out being a not a very good load, but a decent paying load because the miles were so big. And then that load canceled on me. And when it canceled on me, they offered me that load to Mississippi, which is a much shorter load. Is paying a couple $1,000s less because it was much shorter mileage. The rate per mile was not significantly different. It went from like 246 a mile to like 236 a mile. But, and I had a lot of people reply to that video and they were like, oh, I would have took that Mississippi load. The pay on a load, on whether or not the pay is decent on a load, fluctuates by the mileage. Like if you're looking at rate per mile, let me put it in very simple, basic terms. $10 a mile. That's an awesome rate, right? Like you would haul a load for $10 a mile. Yes? Yes. Okay. I've got a load that's going 10 miles for $10 a mile. That's $100. Is that a good load? No. No, that's not a good load. You're probably going to lose money hauling that load. It's not even a break-even load. The amount of money is dependent on a lot of factors. You cannot just look at one thing and say that's a good load. Like if I asked you, is $15,000, is that a good load? You can't answer that question. And if you do, and you say, yeah, that's an awesome load, then you don't know what you're talking about because you haven't been given enough information to know whether that's an awesome load. What if it is a round trip load, going from Orlando to Anchorage, Alaska? It's like a 15,000 mile load, paying $15,000. That's not a good load. So yeah, and I know somebody's going to critique me on that. It's not 15,000 miles round trip. Yeah, I'm not sure of the exact mileage. It's probably closer to like 10 or 11,000 miles round trip. It might be upwards of 15,000 miles from Orlando to Anchorage and back. I don't know. It's just a made up, on the spot example. It's not accurate. But yeah, there's no one single thing one little piece of information that you can be provided with that can tell you whether or not it's a good load. You need to know the rate per mile, how much it pays per day, the mileage on it, any extra stuff that has to be done with the load. What mark is it picking up from? What mark is it delivering? Aside from the market you're picking up and delivering, like what is the exact location like that you're picking up and delivering? Like, is it in a residential area? Is it a warehouse? Like, is it a dirt road up the side of a cliff on a mountain at somebody's property, like 10 miles deep into their property on some sketch road? Like, there's a lot of information. Like, everything comes into factor on whether or not it's a good load. So yeah, that Mississippi load, like the Atlanta load was already a bad load. Like I was not happy with that Atlanta load. Let's go over here to the other search. Let's edit this, and let's search by, let's just search by team. So right now we're at 6,461 loads. Why are we at, what restriction do I have on here? Oh my goodness. Are you kidding me? By just having 2,000 minimum revenue and $250 per mile, That gets rid of 60,000. That gets rid of 90% of the loads on Landstar's load board. All right, direct shipper. Let's change that to yes. And let's go to team yes. There are only 169 team loads. Let's get rid of the minimum rate per mile and the minimum revenue. That 177. Do I have any other restrictions on here? That seems really low. I don't think I have any other restrictions. That's just it. We're only looking at contract freight. We don't want to see any reposted spot market crap. Let's just see what the number is, what it goes up to. From 177 to 316, it basically doubles. All right, so I'm going to scroll through all of the team loads. This is basically every team load on Landstar's load board that is a contract load, that is like direct customer freight. Now, keep in mind that the same crap that you see on the load board is going to be on Landstar's load board as well. So it's going to have the spot market crap as well. These are just the contract loads. So the person that was requesting the very specific loads from like Ontario, Canada to Los Angeles, hazmat team loads, whatever, you can look through here at all of the loads on Landstar's load board for teams. Let's sort by revenue. It's really slow. There we go. Oh my goodness, it's so slow that it just... Now let's wait. We're waiting. Because I apparently clicked too many times. There was such a big delay. Did it not... Alright, let's try clicking on it again. Now let's click on it again. Alright, now stay there. Now it's sorted by revenue. And I'll just scroll through these. I forgot what I was talking about. I know I was talking about the reason I turned down that Mississippi load. I'm not sure if I completed that thought and moved on to something else. But it was basically it was just with the reduced mileage, it just wasn't worth it. Like what I was going to make on that load was going to be, I think, around $3,000 or less, and it was driving like 1,800 miles, around 2,000 miles. I think it was around 2,000 miles, and it was paying like $4,800 on the full rate, and I was going to make like $3,000 on the load after the percentage cuts. It was like $3,000 to drive 2,000 miles. I was like, nah, I'm not doing that crap. I want to do a search for the CGI agency and maybe even the VAM agency after this. Alright, let's edit the search. Let's go team no, because I'm not a team. And let's do a search of Portland, Oregon. Let's do 150-mile radius. And we're not putting in any... I have killed so many flies, and I'm about to kill another. Man, this fly is aggressive. You ever have those flies that are so aggressive, like you can hit them, they fly right back at you. You hit them again, they fly right back at you. Man, really aggressive flies. Or playful, I don't know which. If you're wondering what's in this spray bottle, it's 91% isopropyl alcohol. If I can get a good squirt on the fly will fall to the ground, and then I can smash it. All right, 23 loads, not searching by he just landed right on my forehead. Acting like he knows me or something. So this is the same search as my oh, you know what? I didn't search by trailer type. So we're going to be seeing flatbed and stuff like that on here. Let's... How many are there? 23 loads. We can look through them. This is some really cheap crap. £60,000 on a low boy at $16 a mile. Some overweight, might even be oversized. Been sitting on the load board for 8 days. So that tells me it's not a good load for oversized, overweight. The rate per mile is good if it was a high mileage load, but probably not a good load for the short mileage it's doing. All right, here's Albany, Oregon to Dallas, Texas. Really close to where I'm at. Max weight load, paying $1.88 a mile. And I only get about 70% of that, so that's some really cheap crap. Is this contract? Yeah, this is all... I just make sure this is all direct shipper freight. You know what's sad is that there are people that are so desperate to get to Dallas that this load is likely going to be covered at this price. I was looking to see if there are any comments. Like, sometimes these agents will put in comments, usually not on contract freight, but on spot market loads, which I almost never look at. But on spot market loads, sometimes they will put in the comments, you know, bring your rate or something like that. Basically, telling you that, you know, if you don't like the price, offer me something else. But I've never seen that on a contract load. They don't typically negotiate rates on contract loads. All right. I'm going to pause this for a minute and see if I can kill this aggressive fly. Oh, my mouse isn't moving. I guess I had knocked my mouse connector loose, but we're good to go now. I didn't get him, but I don't know where it's at. I think it might have flown out the window. Just looking at all of the loads within 150 miles of Portland. See if there's anything worth hauling. All right, let's edit this search and let's do only vans, power only, containers. Let's also do expedite. Let's extend the search out to 300 miles. Let's do a minimum rate per mile of $2. Minimum revenue of $2,000. And let's see what we got. Nothing. Nothing worth hauling. All right, let's clear all of this stuff. And we're going to do some agency searches. So we're going to leave it on no teams, but on the agency, let's do CGI, which has... oh, are you serious? Oh. It's because I have the Portland as the destination. I was like, CGI doesn't have a single load on the board? Most of these are probably going to be Saya loads. It said there were 165 loads in my search results. But, oh, okay, I understand now. A lot of these are multi-loads. Like this load right here, Commerce City, Colorado to Salt Lake City, there are 16 of those loads. So I was like, man, that's a short list for 165 loads. Now let's look and see what's going. You know what? Let's search. Because I'm not. What I'm looking for are loads from these agencies. Let's take it out to 1,000 miles. And let's look at the VAM agency. Can't go into California. Not really wanting to haul a load that cheap either. Those are the only two agencies that I can think of right now that have big LTL contracts. Ooh, we just have a load alert. Let's refresh this and take a look at it. It's this one right here. Oh my goodness. It has a lot fewer stops on it, so that severely decreases the pay. Let's go into Sioux City, Iowa. Let's take a look at the stops. You know what? This does not look bad at all. These places that are off the beaten path are not very far off the interstate. I think I'm going to book this load. And you're ending up pretty close to Omaha, which is not a bad place to be looking for a load. And fuel prices in Omaha are pretty cheap. It's one of the cheapest places that you can get fuel in the country. So I'm going to book this load. All right, I'm going to leave this recording while I book the load. And I'll try to remember to pause it if I am going to exchange personal information. Boss Lady Logistics. Boss Lady Logistics. Hello, my name is Daniel. I'm calling about the load from Staten, Oregon to Sioux City, Iowa. Okay, all right, thank you. I'm not interested in that one right now. If I get interested in it, I'll call you back. All right, thanks. Bye. Already covered the Sioux City, Iowa load. It's already gone. They're like, I do have this one going to Colorado, and I'm like, I'm not interested in that one right now. I'll give you a call back. So somebody called in immediately on that Sioux City, Iowa load. So basically, before they didn't do any trip planning, they didn't look and see where it was going or anything like that. They called and booked a load. Just straight off a load alert. A lot of people have load alerts set up. There's several different ways that you can set up load alerts. You can set them up to where it does a push notification on your phone, which is how I have them set up. I get a little alert on my phone whenever the load comes in. You can also have them set up to where they email you, and you can have them set up to where it calls you. It'll basically, your phone will ring, you answer it. I've never set it up this way. I've just been told that this is the way it works. And it'll say, a load has been posted. It'll give you like the origin, the destination, the price, and the rate per mile. Say, do you want to call about the load? And you can like press 1 or something, and it'll send you to the agent. So somebody called really, 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 really quick when that load was posted. Let's see if they get desperate to move this Colorado load. If they dump a couple $1,000s more on that load, I will probably take it. But I'm not really wanting to drive around on state roads and highways in the Rockies on a load. Oh my goodness. The exit is backed up all the way to the interstate, and they've extended the exit here. It used to be a really short off-ramp, and the interstate would get really backed up. It was dangerous. It's really dangerous to be stopped on a high-speed road. But they are doing construction, just completely redoing all the roads at this exit, and they've already extended this off-ramp by, I don't know how far, like 500 feet maybe. And that's still not enough. It's still getting backed up all the way to the interstate. There's just so much traffic exiting here with the 2 truck stops. And then on top of that, there's a lot of four-wheelers that exit here. So there's a lot of traffic exiting. But on top of that, the other reason, aside from just the amount of traffic exiting, the other reason it gets backed up is because the roadway, it's really hard to get off of the off-ramp onto the roadway because there's so much traffic driving back and forth on the road, and it's a narrow little 2-lane road, a narrow little bi-directional, and it's also a really blind turn. It's really hard to see. You can't see very far to your left. There's a bridge there, and you're in a turn, and you can't pull out very far into the roadway to see beyond the bridge. It's just really poorly designed. If there was almost no traffic, then it would be okay. But with as much traffic as there is going in and out of this area, the design is horrendous. So it looks like they're completely redoing it, and it looks like they're going to add in, like it's going to look really different whenever they get done with it. Based off of what I'm seeing them, the construction I'm seeing them doing around here. Man, I wish I would have gotten that load. Like at first I was like, this looks okay. It's paying, a lot less than the other loads, but it's looking decent. And the more I looked at the load, the better it looked. And now that I'm thinking about it, I'm like, man, I really wish I would have gotten that load. Because almost every place that it was delivering was right off the interstate. And it didn't have a ton of extra stops on it. Well, yeah, it did. It had 18. It was 18, right? 18 extra stops. That's a lot. Like 5 extra stops is a lot. 18 is pretty crazy. And a lot of these agents are just so incredibly unprofessional. Like whenever I call an agency and they just answer the phone with hello or Landstar, like that, it's just like, Or whenever they call me and they, like, one of the things that I find extremely rude is when somebody calls me and without introducing themselves, they just start asking for information. Somebody calls, I'm like, hello. And they're like, is this Daniel? Who the hell are you? So whenever I call somebody, I try to introduce myself first before I start asking them for stuff, because I just find it really rude for people to like not introduce themselves whenever they approach you, whenever they call you, whenever they come to your door, anything. If you engage with somebody, it's just rude to not introduce yourself before you start making demands or asking for favors. Damn it, damn it, damn it. That was probably going to be the best load I'm going to see the entire time I'm here, and I missed it. What I'm hoping is that the person cancels the load really quick. What I'm hoping is that it's just one of these people that doesn't look at loads, and they just book them without looking at them. And then once they realize that it's a multi-stop driver unload, they're going to be like, no, I'm not doing that. And they cancel it, and it'll pop back up on the load board. But usually people don't cancel loads until the last minute. There's that damn fly. Did I get him? What in the hell? It just said attempting to reconnect to server. Like I lost internet. But it's back now. All right, I'm going to pause this while I wait to see if there's if another load pops up here. I'll unpause it. All right, it's doing that thing again, and I just tested my connection. I just opened up a web page, and my connection's fine. So this is a Landstar issue. All right, let me pause this because it's probably going to make me log back in. All right, we're back. It did not make me log back in. All right, we'll pause it while I wait for a load to post. You know what? I think I'm just going to end the video there because it's 1:50 p.m. Central Time. It's 11:51 a.m. Pacific Daylight Time, but it's 2 o'clock in the afternoon Central. That damn fly. It's 3 o'clock in the afternoon Eastern. Brokers are going to start winding down at the end of the day. Usually, the way the day plays out is at the very beginning of the morning is when they post new loads, and then throughout the day, if they can't move the load, then they might repost the load at a higher rate. Is somebody parking next to me? Please be a van parking next to me. Fuck yeah. Yay! I finally, this is the first time, I've been here since Saturday morning. Tuesday, almost noon. This is the first time since I've been parked here that a van has been parked on that side of me. So this should provide some shade and help to cool the truck off a little bit. Yes, this is good. And I've got a van on the other side of me, which, it's better than that mirror reflective tanker that was there. But, yeah, I think I'll just wrap it up. Maybe I'll do a load board video again tomorrow. But, I'm really bummed out about missing out on that Sioux City, was it Sioux City, Iowa? Or Sioux City, South Dakota? I think it was Sioux City, South Dakota was where that load finaled at. It was basically Omaha, Nebraska. I'm really bummed out about missing that Omaha, Nebraska load right now. I'm just sitting there thinking about how good of a load that was. Well, it wasn't actually a very good load, but for this area, the Seattle-Portland area where the loads are horrendous, that was a pretty good load. I don't know if I'm going to see another load that good. And what really sucks is every one of these agents' loads that I've seen, they basically all pick up on like Thursday. So, and you have to leave the trailer there for 24 hours for it to get loaded. So if I don't get a load booked today or really early tomorrow morning, then I'm probably going to have to wait another week to get one of the loads from that agent. Or, we'll see if another Google load gets posted. I don't know. I'm sitting here just waiting on a load alert. And for any load that's good or decent, I mean, whenever you're looking at it in relative terms, bad, what would be considered a bad load in Dallas is a good load over here in Portland. So, relative speaking, any good load that gets posted over here in Portland is, you have to call in pretty quick to get it. It's really hard to get them. But, yeah. I guess I'll figure out what I'm going to eat. Not sure if I talked about it, but let me switch this over to just me. So normally this is what I use to heat up food. It's just a little lunchbox that you take to work with you, and you plug it into an outlet at your desk, and it will warm up food for you. It gets up to 170 degrees, which is hot enough to cook something. You can cook with this. It's not recommended because you need to get the food up to 165 degrees for it to cook and for it to kill bacteria and virus. And if whatever you're using to warm up the food only gets up to 170, it's really hard to get all of the food up to 165. But I just put a little aluminum foil on the bottom for cleanliness. And yeah, I just mainly reheat frozen stuff with this. I've never cooked anything with it that I can recall. Actually, you know what? I did make ramen noodles with it. And it did not get the ramen. I ate the ramen noodles. Basically, with ramen noodles, you just need really hot water. So what I did was I just put a bowl in here and I left it in there for I don't know, an hour and let the water get up to 170. And then I poured the ramen in there and let it set for 5 minutes. And it didn't quite get the ramen hot enough. The consistency of the ramen wasn't very good. It was, I don't know. It was kind of rubbery. But something that I bought for the truck to add add more options to heating stuff is I bought an induction cooktop, New Wave, and this thing is way bigger than I thought it was. Like, I don't know why it didn't process in my head what 12 inches was, but in the picture, I think they have an 8-inch version and then the 12-inch version. And in the picture, I was looking at the 8-inch version. I was like, that's really small. I was like, well, let's get the 12-inch version. It's almost the same price. I don't think there was a big difference in price. But I just did not process in my head how big the 12-inch version was. It's like massive. I can still fit it in the truck, and it's fine. It's not too big. But this thing is amazing. Now, when I first put it in the truck, it did not work. I had a Cobra. I thought I still had it on the floorboard, but I don't. I put it away in one of the cabinets. It still works, so I'm keeping it as a backup. But I had a Cobra 2500 watt inverter that did not meet specifications. The most wattage that it would put out was 900 watts. And this has 3 settings. You can set it for 600 watts, 900 watts, or 1500 watts. It has a little watts button where you can switch between the 3. And even at the lowest setting of 600 watts, this would not work on the old inverter. And I did some searching online, and I found that these induction cooktops, they need like a certain type of power, like the frequency and stuff like that. And these cheap that inverter wasn't cheap, but these cheaply made inverters, they don't put out the type of power. So I had to get a pure sine wave inverter that provides power very similar to what you get in a house. And it's a lower wattage inverter. It's a 2000 watt inverter, but it actually puts out more wattage than the Cobra inverter did, because the Cobra wasn't putting out anywhere near its rated wattage. And it works great on the new inverter. And even my microwave works on the new inverter. Like, I can use my microwave again. I had to stop using my microwave because it would take I'd have to run the microwave for like 15 minutes for it to get anything warm, because it was getting so little power out of the old inverter. But now I heated up a corn dog. I put the corn dog in there for 1 minute. A frozen corn dog. I put it in there for 1 minute, just thinking it would heat it up a little bit. I was just basically wanting to defrost it, and then I was going to put it in the little warming thing and let it sit in there for an hour and get hot. But 1 minute in the microwave, and that thing came out like scalding hot. Like, you couldn't touch it. It was so hot. But yeah, the induction cooktop works really well. The only thing I've really used it for was to cook some ramen, and the ramen came out great. A lot of people don't like ramen. I grew up on ramen. I grew up really poor. And not just when I grew up, but like whenever I moved out on my own, I lived on ramen for like a long time. My roommate that I had out of high school, we lived on ramen, Dr. Thunder, and that was about it. Just ramen and Dr. Thunder. And whenever you live on ramen, you get very creative, like cheesy ramen, like anything you can find to add some flavor to the ramen. You're adding stuff to the ramen. And I still stock the truck with ramen. I put them in these 1 gallon Ziploc bags. And my roommate, he swore that he will never eat ramen ever again in his life. I don't have that problem. I still think ramen's awesome. It's not like my preferred meal, but every now and then, like, I don't mind eating ramen. So I bring it with me on the truck, and I ate a thing of ramen the other day, and I think I actually overcooked it because it almost came out like the noodles were so overcooked it almost turned into a bowl of mush. Like the noodles almost lost their consistency. It was so overcooked. I've never cooked. Well, I won't say never. It's been a really long time since I've cooked ramen on a stovetop, so I wasn't really sure how to do it. I've always microwaved ramen, where I just put it in the microwave for 4 minutes, and then I add in the seasoning packet, and I let it, I stir it up, and I let it set for like 5 minutes, and it comes out about perfect every time. So I need to get a little bit better on my stovetop cooking because I overcooked it last time. That's sounding pretty good. Some ramen right now. One thing that I add to it is I have some chopped up onions. I brought a bag of onions with me on the truck, and I'll chop them up, and just some diced up onions in there in the ramen makes a huge difference. It's really awesome. Something that I did not bring in the truck with me this time that I need to bring next time is a thing of like hot dogs. Something, maybe not hot dogs, or sausages, or something similar to a hot dog. That just has a lot of potential uses. You can chop that up and add it into like all kinds of things. Like, I think I have some canned chili, and just chopping up a couple of hot dogs and putting it into some canned chili, that can really add a lot to it. Hot dogs in the ramen with some onions, that sounds pretty good. Yeah, I'll have to put that on my list of stuff to buy for the truck next time. But anyway, no load alerts. We're not getting anything. Might not get anything the rest of the day, because in the second half of the day, it's usually just trying to move loads that are already on the board. Yeah, there might be some new loads posted, but the majority of the new loads are posted early in the morning, which is why I don't do a whole lot of load board videos, because you really need like to be making the load board video early in the morning, and it needs to not be on a holiday or a weekend, and like all these things in order for you to see like a decent amount of good loads. Once you get into the afternoon or a holiday, weekend, nighttime, whatever, the load board just really falls off. You're just seeing the crap that nobody wants, which is what's mainly on the load board all the time, because as you saw, the really good loads, they get covered in a couple of minutes. So if you see anything sitting on the load board for more than about 30 minutes, it's probably not a good load. But anyway, that's it for me. Maybe we'll do another load board tomorrow if I'm still looking for a load in the morning. I'll try to get up really early and get a load board going at 8 a.m. Central Time, which seems to be when the load board really starts kicking off. But we'll see. All right, bye.